Okay, so I did my research on zoos and aquariums. So some background, the early versions of zoos are called menageries. The oldest one is from 3500 BCE, so it's super old, and it's in Egypt and is created to bring fears into enemies. And a lot of times the menageries were only owned by the wealthy um, to show their wealth and power. Um, Also, there was a menagerie in China that was created for educational purposes, and today a lot of zoos and aquariums, their like main focus is to educate people on the animals that are there. So during the 18th and 19th centuries, the menageries they became more public, and the first public zoo opened in uh, London in 1847, and it housed some animals that are now extinct, like I think it's pronounced like the quagga. It looks like it's like this zebra thing that also looks like a horse. It's kind of both. But yeah, it's extinct now, so it's pretty cool that to house that. And then shortly after, the first public aquarium was opened in 1853 in London, also. And then Carl Hagenbeck really changed the way that the animals were housed in zoos. So originally they were put in uh, cages that, like the steel bars and stuff, but he changed it to more of a natural habitat for the animals so that it looks like it reflects how they live in the wild so that people can like really experience that. And that's kind of how like zoos are today. Like if you're ever going to Hobo Zoo, that's like the same type of thing. And then Jimmy Chipperfield, he created the first safari park in 1966, which is similar to like an African safari or wildlife reservation. So it's like we the people go into the habit, like into the like where animals really are living, so that we're not like invading them and like making them come stay in zoos. So the problem, animal rights activists believe that zoos and aquariums take away the rights of animals being kept, while others believe that zoos and aquariums are just super fun and like there's nothing wrong with them. So many debates have risen, especially in recent years, because of the outcome of the documentary Blackfish, which exposed a lot of the issues with SeaWorld. So the question is, are zoos and aquariums ethical? So one side says yes, zoos and aquariums are ethical. So a major goal for zoos and aquariums is to conserve and protect animals. And a good example of this is the Phoenix Zoo. They were able to get the Arabian oryx off of the endangered species list. So that animal, actually in the wild, there was a point where there weren't any of them in the wild. They were only in zoos, and they were able to release 1,000 of them into the wild and get them off the endangered species list. So that was awesome. And also the zoos and aquariums often will take in sick or injured animals so that they can return them back to health and then release them back into the wild. But sometimes the animals are no longer capable of living on their own, so zoos and aquariums will keep them so that they can research them, so that the same thing won't happen again to the animals, and that they can like further research the animals so they can like figure them out more and stuff. Also, zoos and aquariums are very educational. Like if you ever go into like the zoo or the aquarium, like there's always like things you can learn about the animals and like the earth in general. It's super cool. And also there are a lot of laws in place, and there's a strict accreditation process for the zoos and aquariums have to go through before they can actually be run. So the Animal Welfare Act is a good example of one of those laws. It was created in 1966, but has since been amended so that it more fully protects animals' rights, and it kind of embodies like all animal rights. So like for like your pets or like animals in zoos and stuff, and like buying and like selling animals. And then the USDA and the APHIS requires a lot of licensing, and they will periodically check on the zoos and aquariums to make sure that they are up to the standards that they should be at. So then the other side that says zoos and aquariums aren't ethical. So in order for zoos and aquariums to get their animals, they have to, of course, take the animals out of the wild and place them into the habitat. So oftentimes they will do this by separating them from their groups that they were in or their families, which isn't good for them. And the conditions while they do meet the standards of like the USDA and stuff, they are hardly bearable for them sometimes. So the habitats are often way too small, and like that's understandable because, like, once again, if you've gone to Hogle Zoo and stuff, like it's not a lot of space. Like this room is probably bigger than a lot of the habitats that the animals actually live in, and the grouping of animals isn't always as it should be. So some animals that prefer isolation are being grouped in large groups of animals, while on the flip side, animals that prefer to be in groups are being isolated from the other animals. And this can cause a lot of damage to the animals. It can cause them to be depressed and also cause a lot of self-harm and stress to the animals. And then it's actually not very safe for the animals, and it can also not be safe for us. Like you guys know, Harambe, like a little boy was killed by one of the animals that like fell into the gorilla pit. And the lifespan of the animals drops significantly when they're forced into captivity. And this picture actually shows that. So orcas live as long, if not longer, than most humans. And this says that wild orcas that are then brought into captivity died after only 4 years of being in captivity. So the lifespan drops significantly, and then that percentage, it's 91% of orcas that have been taken into captivity since 1961 have died. So, like, yeah, their lifespans are dropping a lot, and it's not good. I have this clip from Blackfish, actually.
Because the whales in their pools die young, they like to say that all orcas die at 25 or 30 years.
25 to 35 years. 25 to 35 years. They're documented in the wild living to be about 35 or mid-30s. They tend to live a lot longer in this environment because they have all the veterinary care.
And of course that's false. We knew by 1980, after half a dozen years of research, that they live equivalent to human lifespans. And every other potentially embarrassing fact is twisted and turned and denied one way or another.
So in the wild they live less.
Like the floppy dorsal fins.
25% of whales have a fin that turns over like that as they get older.
Dorsal collapse happens in less than 1% of wild killer whales. We know this. All of the captive males, 100%, have collapsed dorsal fins.
And they say that they're a family, that the whales are in their family. They have their pods, but that's just an artificial assemblage of their collection, however management decides they should mix them, and whichever ones happen to be born or bought and brought in. That's not a family, come on.
So that video just kind of goes over, like I said before, the lifespan drops significantly, and the health of the animals is at risk too, like with the dorsal fins that flop over, and how they're often taken away from their families and then like put into like fake families, And if you have the chance to watch Blackfish, it's actually really cool and really interesting. It goes over a lot of things. So in my personal opinion, I don't think that zoos and aquariums are ethical, because while it is true that a major part of zoos and aquariums is to protect the animals, the entertainment aspect of it will always come first. So yeah, the animals don't actually like really take priority. It's just like whatever will entertain the visitors. And then also, while many species have been saved, it's usually just the ones that are most popular and more likely to attract visitors. So like there isn't like a full like span of like what's being saved. And then zoos and aquariums are very educational, but often like people do brush through them and don't actually like get as much out of them as they could. Like, I mean, like I've done that too. Like you just like go see them and don't actually learn anything. And then SeaWorld actually had a recent announcement that they were going to end all of their orca shows because of the backlash from Blackfish. But when I was like researching that, it said that it was more of a semantical change. They were like, so in the San Diego park, I think they were actually gonna like return the orcas into the wild, but in the other parks, like in Texas and stuff, they were just like gonna change the name of what it is and make it like more educational, and then change the backdrop of the shows to make it seem more like it's in the wild, but they weren't actually gonna take them away. And the laws in place don't actually protect the animals well enough. So my pro solution is that it's not realistic to actually shut down all zoos and aquariums, but instead I think that the licensing and accreditation processes should be much more strict and need to be improved. I believe that the habitats should be much larger, and that the animals should be there should be like a law that the animals need to be placed in the right kind of groups. And I think that the focus needs to be on the well-being of the animals rather than just our entertainment. So that's what I'm saying.